We begin our journey with the climax of a war between the Persian Empire to the east and the Greek city-states to the west. After a long uphill struggle, the Athenians of Athens have emerged victorious against the forces of Persia, ending the war that is known today as the Persian Wars. With this victory ushered in a golden age of prosperity as art, philosophy, science, and architecture blossomed. Greek power, influence, and culture was at its height, but the age of gold eventually fades. True to human nature, the Greek city-states had grown greedy and complacent, yet they desired more. Constant bickering and infighting broke out between the city-states. Wrath was starting to fester within. Confident in their own superiority, they overlooked the surrounding kingdoms, and so, in the midst of their constant bickering, the city-states overlooked a small kingdom to the north, Macedonia. They called them the Barbaros, barbarians Greek in name only. Though they bled the same blood, shared the same religion, and spoke the same language, they were seen as savages, backwards and unworthy of the Greek name, and thus Macedonia was ridiculed and overlooked in the grand scheme of the Greek city-states. It was during this time that King Philip II was crowned as King of Macedonia, and Macedonia began amassing power. Armed with sarissas 18-foot-long pikes, twice as long as their Greek counterparts, the armies of Macedonia marched south, led by King Philip II. The combined armies of Thebes and Athens met them on the fields, and combined they were defeated in battle. Soon the influence of King Philip II spread to the entirety of Greece, and all but Sparta fell under his rule. At the peak of his power, Philip II set his eyes to the east, to the riches of the Persian Empire. However, unbeknownst to him, a conspiracy was brewing behind his back. And in 336 BC, he was assassinated. With the Macedonian throne now vacant, a young Alexander ascends to the throne at the age of only 20, seeking to solidify his position and to avenge his father's murder. Alexander brought his father's army with him to bring the rebels to heel, and so the fires of rebellion were swiftly and systematically crushed. With his enemies dead and buried, Alexander now held control over the Greek city-states, but his position was unstable. Fear and force had allowed his father to conquer the lands, but fear and force had done nothing to stop his assassination. So Alexander, ever the cunning strategist, diverted his people's attentions towards Persia, reminding them of the Persian Wars and how the Persians had invaded their lands, and in doing so united the Greeks against a common enemy. Picking up where his father left off, Alexander took his army and crossed into Persian lands. City after city, armies after armies, Alexander conquered them all. Traveling along the coast of the Mediterranean into Egypt and back into central Persia and beyond, nothing stood in his way, until finally, Alexander's army crossed into the Indus River, into the lands of India. However, this was where Alexander's conquest finally halted, not because of Alexander himself, but because his army had refused to go on any further. By this point, fatigue and exhaustion was well set amongst the men. They had been in a relentless conquest for over 10 years. The men were tired of the constant battles and wished to return home. Alexander, fearing a revolt within his army, conceded, and they began their journey back. He had conquered Persia. His feats were already the stuff of legends. There was nothing he had to prove. All knew his name and glory. It was time to return and consolidate his new empire. However, it was not meant to be, as Alexander passed away soon after. It's not known precisely how he met his doom. Perhaps he was assassinated by his rivals like his father before him, poison or a dagger to the back. Perhaps he caught a disease and died from it. Whatever the case, nobody knows. And just like that, Alexander's reign was prematurely snuffed out. Though we do not know about his final moments, what remains true is that Alexander had conquered much of the known world, from Athens to the Indus River, an empire that spanned continents, a unity under his rule on a scale unlike anything ever seen before or even thought possible. Millions spoke his tongue, millions traded with his gold and silver, and millions more knew his name, Alexander the Great.